Hi, I'm Desiree Hadley.
And I'm Andrea Mason with Newark People's Assembly.
And welcome to another episode of Hold the Line with Mayor Rash J. Baraka. Mayor, how are you?
Fine, how are you?
So today we're going to touch on a few different topics. And of course, the first one will be the COVID-19 check-in. We will discuss the vaccination protest that took place a couple weeks ago, the Kenneth A. Gibson statue that was unveiled last week, street repairs, and we will let you have the floor and to discuss anything that is on your mind today. All right, so I'm going to review the COVID numbers that you announced on your Monday's Facebook Live, which stated on September 17th, our 3-day rolling average was 3.35%, and our 7-day rolling average is 4.15%. As of September 14th, 60% of Newarkers 12 and up are fully vaccinated, 72% have received at least one dose. As of September 14th, 62% of Newarkers 18 and up are fully vaccinated, and 73% has received at least one dose. So, as I ask you on every show, where do we now stand against the pandemic since the vaccination number seems to be rising slowly but surely?
I think that's a good thing for us, and it's keeping our numbers steady, right? So our numbers have been steady at the same place for a few weeks, up and down, but basically the same. I believe until we get, more people vaccinated, you're not going to see the numbers drop below 2% like we were before. And people in this area, right? So you're not just talking about Newark, you're also talking about Irvington and East Orange and Hillside, all the places that are congruent to our city, right? That are adjacent to it, yeah.
So I have actually two different things. So the first one is regarding the vaccinations, of course. You mentioned months ago that it's about making it convenient for our residents to get it. Unfortunately, right now, just the way that the schedule is, a lot of the vaccination times are during the day, and our working class people are not able to get the vaccinations. So we've been discussing, or I've been advocating for residents to the health director to possibly have morning hours, evening hours, and then maybe even weekend hours.
Right.
So do you think that that would help our numbers to increase?
Absolutely. And now that school has even started, young people now can't get vaccinated because they're in school. So everybody that's 12 and up are going to be in school now. I mean, the best way to hit those areas is to do it in the evening. More evening, more consistent, with multiple days in those areas. Because if you give them just a one shot a week deal in the afternoon, you're not going to get a lot of people, right? You have to do it in the evening, and you have to do it multiple times in those locations in the evening.
And then the second part, which is a different subject, sort of, is the boosters. So I'm getting quite a few inquiries from seniors wondering when the city of Newark is going to offer the boosters, because the county, from what I understand, is already offering it.
Well, they're offering it they're supposed to be offering it to people who are immunocompromised. And those are the people who have been approved to get the booster shots now, folks that are immunocompromised. They have not started giving it out to everybody else yet. So that's what we are. I don't know about the county doing seniors, but I know the instructions that we have.
All right, so we are in the month of September. Pretty soon, flu season will start as we enter the winter months. Currently, Newark's COVID death rate is low, but not at zero. So do you foresee this rate rising as we enter the flu season, or are you hopeful that it'll
Prayerfully
stay
not.
low?
I mean, when people die from the flu as well, unfortunately. And, the best we can hope for is that people are vaccinated, that they stay safe, that they wear their mask, and that we keep our numbers the way they are. And as long as I think the key is, as long as there's room in those hospitals for people to be seen. There are places around the country now where people can't even get in the hospital who are dying because they can't get to the hospital. We don't want to be back in that situation because we were there at one point. We don't want to be back there. And I think if the hospitals are free and people can get care and service when they need it, I think we will be okay.
All right, so moving on to the vaccine protests that took place outside of City Hall a few weeks ago. Union members protested the mandatory vaccine executive order you put out a little while back. And some people, the union members, feel that they should not be forced to get vaccinated. It should be a personal choice. What do you say to those who feel this way?
Well, everybody are pretending like this vaccine stuff is new. Like, it was mandatory for you to get a polio vaccine. It's mandatory for you to get the mumps, the measles, rubella, smallpox, all these things that were wiping out our population. It's not a personal choice, because your personal choice affects me, right? So that's why wearing a seatbelt is not a personal choice, right? You don't have a personal choice not to wear a seatbelt. You don't have the personal choice to get drunk and get in the car, because now you're putting me in danger. It's not just about you, right? So we do have to protect your life as public safety officials, but you also have to protect the lives of the public, right? And I think the military understood that by the Secretary of Defense saying all military have to get vaccinated. Why? Because they can't defend the country or fight wars if everyone's sick, or if people are dying from sickness, if they're spreading disease amongst their ranks. So they had to be vaccinated. And I think because it has been so politicized, and I think both parties are to blame, Democrats and Republicans alike, are to blame for the atmosphere that we're in around this vaccine that made everybody so skeptical and unsafe right now, because the Democrats were saying things when Trump was in office that they shouldn't have been saying. And Republicans are doing the same now, right? And they've politicized the entire process. So I believe most of the firefighters are vaccinated. Most of the police officers are vaccinated. So it's not even about the vaccination. It's about the mayor telling them to get vaccinated. It's about this little black boy from Clinton Avenue telling those guys that they have to get vaccinated. And they feel like I shouldn't have the right to tell them that. That's really what it's about, right? It's not even about, the union leaders are vaccinated. You should ask them. They should go ask them. They're vaccinated, right? So, and so the issue does not even become that. It's about something bigger. It's a political issue that has been made this way for some time. Like, we're doing something that's out of the ordinary, when the ordinary thing to do for public safety is to make people get vaccinated. You can't even send your kid to school unless they're vaccinated. It doesn't make any sense. The argument that we're having now, it doesn't make any historical sense. It doesn't make any scientific sense.
Do you think, I know one of the repercussions is the termination of their job. Do you think that's fair to say if someone doesn't get vaccinated, then they risk losing their job?
Yeah, I think absolutely. If a police officer don't wear his body camera, he risks losing his job, right? If a fire official, a fire department person, when they go on a fire, if they don't do the things that they're supposed to do while they're in there, they risk losing their job. There are policies and practices that are put in place for the safety of the people doing the job and for the safety of those folks who are receiving what they're doing, right? And so if I'm a firefighter and I go out and somebody is out there dying and I have to give them mouth to mouth, and I have coronavirus, and I pass it to them or somebody else I'm rescuing or saving, how many people do they touch? Do they talk to? Do they have to deal with within a court days of work? And how many people they come in contact with in their own department that they get sick? We had 900 public safety folks sick from coronavirus. And so they all had to quarantine and do all that. Thank God everybody was in the house. Could you imagine if it was normal what was going on now, and we had 900 officers and fire folks sick? It just doesn't make any sense to me. It puts us all at risk, because the guy said, well, what if everybody decides not to come to work and leave? I said, well, if they get sick, they can't come to work anyway. So it doesn't even matter, right? So if you have 20, 30, 40, 50 police officers out because they quarantine, because you were sick and you were around me, so we both have to quarantine for 10 days, right? And that goes on and on and on and on. It just destabilizes our entire ability to provide public safety to the community. It just does.
All right, so last week we unveiled the Kenneth A. Gibson statue. Kenneth A. Gibson was the first African-American mayor of a major northeastern city in the United States. He made political history right here in Newark when he was elected in 1970, breaking the race barrier. So the statue of him was unveiled last week in Newark. So my question is, what does this statue mean to you on a personal level and overall to the city of Newark?
Well, it means self-determination for me, meaning that It shows that we have some level of authority, some level of power that we could express who we are. We, the people of this community, elected the first African-American mayor of a major city in the Eastern Seaboard. It should be a part of American history. And if we weren't in power, I don't believe it would be. You know, and I mean people of color, if we didn't have the ability to get these seats and say, let's name streets after people we know, let's create statues and monuments like they created statues and monuments of the folks that they looked up to. I think we need to do the same thing, and putting King Gibson in front of City Hall is incredibly appropriate for generations of folks to know and see that as well. And it means a lot to me personally because I knew King Gibson personally, and I spent some quality time with him before he passed, and I just became more and more, you know, as a 18, 19, 20-year-old, you know, in my radical self then, you know, I had all kind of things to say about King Gibson and all this other kind of stuff, but, you know, in my 40s, you know, talking to King Gibson and understanding the political landscape and what's going on, I have a monumental level of respect for what he was trying to do at a time when Newark was at a crossroads.
So we're going to move on to, so we only have about 2 minutes left. So I did want to, we were going to talk about the street repairs, but we want to open the floor and allow you to talk about anything that's on your mind today. I know that the Haitian asylum seekers is a big topic, if you wanted to speak on that.
Sure, I do. First, I mean, we're repairing the streets. What people need to know, first we need to know civics. So that's number one, the difference between county government, city government, state government, federal government. I swear we need to have a class about this stuff all over the state, because people just don't know. But at the end of the day, the asphalt plant only opens up at a certain time because of the weather. So we only have the spring and the summer and part of the fall to pave as many streets as we can, especially after we did lead service lines. So we have a bunch of streets that we have to pave. So it's going to be a little inconvenient. And then the county has their stuff that they have to do that has nothing to do with us, that coupled on top of that. So there's a lot of stuff that's going on right now. And, you know, it's going to be inconveniencing. But before I do close, I do want to say I just put out a statement about what's going on at the border. It's really, nobody should be really shocked, you know, as we talk about taking all these people from Afghanistan in, and we should, fleeing the Taliban. New Jersey is about to take all these people with no incident, you know, who are fleeing terror, obviously, because there's asylum is a part of America's history and law that we take people seeking asylum. And so they're taking those folks, right? When they were putting people in cages, kids in cages, everybody was screaming and hollering all over the country about, you know, Trump was wrong, all this stuff. But we're watching these black families being run through water, lassoed, whipped, beat, corralled, and nobody's saying anything, right? I think it's wrong. At the base of it is racist, and that, you know, fundamentally, somebody has to address that. We have to, I mean, there are women in Haiti that are being raped on the street, like right now. Like the president was murdered, right? So, I mean, there's chaos in the country right now. It's chaos, complete and total chaos. On top of that, the hurricane and all kind of other stuff. So it's a mess, right? They're not getting all of the aid and assistance that they should get from from the developed world. That's not happening. So the people are fleeing. They're fleeing. And what do? We send horses to whip them like they were running away from a plantation.
All right, and you believe that race plays a huge part?
100%. I think people still mad at Haiti because they was the first independent black nation in the first place, right? So they still suffering from that. But at the end of the day, you see those black families, they are stark, clear black families running in water with their children. Babies and everything, trying to get away from terror. I don't see what the difference is between that and people running from the Taliban or children being put in cages. I don't see the difference.
All right, Mayor, that's all we have time for. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for watching.